Let's jump right into today's explainer, where we're looking at a wildly fascinating piece of surreal fiction from Max and Claude called The Completion Ii. Now, this isn't just your standard story. It's a massive thought experiment about our modern-day obsession with purpose, that relentless need to be productive, and the exhausting feeling that we're always supposed to be arriving somewhere. Today, we're going to unpack the liberating, absolute peace of simply existing, completely free from the weight of constant expectation. So I want you to imagine this for a second. You wake up, you go to your perfectly ordinary, maybe slightly boring job, and sitting right there on your desk is a formal letter. You open it up, and it simply tells you that your life's purpose, your so-called matter, is formally concluded. That's it. No further action is required, requested, or even possible. How would that make you feel? Would you be terrified, totally lost, or maybe inexplicably relieved? Well, that is the exact bizarre scenario we're breaking down today. Okay, Section 1, the unending routine, Egon's loop. Let's get right into this by meeting our main by Egon Pavlik. Now, Egon is a man who definitely knows a thing or two about being stuck in a rut. For 31 long years, Egon has been working at the Department of Final Determinations. His entire existence is just this unbroken, mind-numbing loop of mundane bureaucracy. I mean, his week includes listening to the heating pipes going on Tuesdays. He literally moves files to the left or right of his desk based on some vague internal meditation rather than any actual logical rules. He eats a sandwich, always cut precisely down the middle, at noon, reading a newspaper he couldn't care less about just to avoid the awkward silence of the break room. Egon perfectly represents the ultimate grind. It's that heavy feeling we all get sometimes when we're just going through the motions, desperately waiting for our lives to finally mean something. Which brings us to Section 2, a matter concluded, the magical disruption. Because on an otherwise totally ordinary Tuesday, something happens that completely shatters Egon's endless cycle. Egon gets this mysterious letter. It's sealed with red wax and smells faintly of cinnamon and old wood. And the letter states, quote, "This is to formally notify you that your matter is concluded. No further action is required, requested, or possible." End quote. Just think about how strange, yet oddly comforting, the finality of those words is. Notice, it doesn't even tell him what his matter actually was. It just tells him that the burden of carrying it is finally over. So, what does a concluded matter actually mean in this world? Well, when Egon's colleagues start getting these same letters, they completely panic, thinking it's some grim euphemism for death or getting fired. But actually, it's neither of those things. It's the end of a psychological burden. It's this sudden, totally unearned permission to just stop holding your breath. You can finally stop waiting for your actions to somehow justify your mere existence. Moving on to Section 3, the heavy blank page, the 7th floor. Naturally, Egon goes looking for some answers, and this search leads him to a very slow, mysterious elevator and a button for a 7th floor that really shouldn't even exist in his building. Once he gets up to this impossible 7th floor, he finds an office that is somehow the exact size of every room he's ever been in. A mysterious clerk is there and hands Egon a single sheet of paper. But here's the kicker. The paper is completely blank. When Egon understandably asks why there's no official record or summary of his 31 years of life's work, the clerk drops this brilliant line. Completion does not produce content, it produces absence of further requirement. And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophy of this whole story. You see, the blank page Egon receives is noticeably heavy, way denser than a normal piece of paper. Later on, he even tries to write on it, but the ink literally will not stick to the page, it just rolls off. Because a truly fulfilled, concluded life isn't just some checklist of achievements you can document and file away. True peace is obligation-free space. The blankness itself is the reward. It's an open, heavy, unwritable space. All right, Section 4. Doing versus being, the existential shift. As word of this starts spreading through the bureaucratic complex, more and more workers begin receiving their own letters of conclusion. Let's see how this massive shift ripples out. Before receiving the letter, everyone lived with what Egon describes as a reaching quality. Basically, this means always acting for a future reason, right? Always waiting for the next thing, hoping that today's suffering or boredom will eventually pay off tomorrow. But concluded presence is entirely different. It's about existing right in the moment, acting purely for its own sake. When that heavy pressure to constantly achieve just vanishes, people's days don't actually empty out like you'd expect. They fill up with this profound, beautiful sense of presence. It's amazing to see what happens once the other characters realize they have no grand, overarching purpose to fulfill anymore. They start doing wonderfully pointless things. Matei, a young Clark, just starts running through the streets without any destination in mind. Vesna takes up painting despite having absolutely zero artistic skill, just for the pure joy of feeling the brush move. Dolenchek spends hours cooking these incredibly elaborate meals that are just consumed and gone in a matter of minutes. And Bregovich joyfully gives away her entire lifelong book collection. They've all embraced actions that are completely devoid of any external justification. They're just living.
Egon actually experiences his own profound realization while taking a Sunday walk by the water. Watching the river flow through the city, it hits him. He thinks, the river's matter has always been concluded. The river isn't actively trying to arrive anywhere, you know? The moving itself is the matter. Nature already exists in this perfect state of conclusion, entirely free of our exhausting human anxiety of constantly becoming something else.
Then we have Egon's coworker, Vladka, who takes this concept even further. She suggests they just stop trying to force the heavy blank page to be a document. Instead, she decides to treat the blankness like a companion. And by doing this, she actually finds deep, meaningful healing over the loss of her sister. She realizes that immense human experiences, like profound grief and love, they don't actually need documentation. The simple, beautiful fact of having been here is the only record required. The blank page isn't empty at all. It's completely full of quiet acknowledgement. This brings us to Section 5, the next commencement. A new matter begins. Because just when Egon and his colleagues have really settled into this beautiful, unburdened rhythm, the story delivers a fascinating final twist exactly 6 weeks later. A second cinnamon-scented letter arrives right on Egon's desk. But this time, the letter says, "This is to formally notify you that a new matter has begun." Boom! The illusion of permanent finality is totally shattered. It turns out the surreal bureaucracy of life is cyclical. So Egon takes that mysterious elevator right back up to the 7th floor. But the room has changed. Instead of a desk and a clerk, there is just a freestanding door leading to the Office of Commenced Matters. He opens it to find this welcoming, entirely unfrightening nothing. It's just pure, unrealized potential. In that moment, Egon realizes a subtle but massive shift. In his first matter, he was carrying the heavy burden of a task. But now, he feels that he's no longer carrying the matter. He literally is the matter itself. So, the really crucial point to take away from all this is that existence isn't just some straight line heading towards a final finish tape. It's an ongoing cycle. We start out carrying the heavy burden of purpose. Then, eventually, we experience the realization and relief of conclusion, whether we consciously recognize it or not. We get to embrace that heavy, blank space of just being. And eventually, from that peaceful nothingness, we step into a brand new commencement. The cycle begins all over again, but this time, just maybe we carry it a little bit lighter. It is so incredibly easy to get caught up in that reaching quality of life, isn't it? Waiting for the weekend, waiting for that big promotion, waiting to finally feel like you've arrived. But what if the Bureau sent you a letter right now? If your matter was already concluded today and you literally had nothing left to prove to anyone, what would you do with your days? Would you run without a destination? Paint without any skill? I really hope this explainer has given you the permission to find a little bit of that blank page in your own life.